Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. Today we've got a nice guest joining us, upcoming gigs in town, up at Turtle Bay with the Jazz Festival that's coming. Everybody Wants a Piece, his latest, and one of the things that's remarkable about him is the longevity of his career. So many cats that he's gotten to work with, whether it's sharing the bill or, in fact, recording with them. And it's a great pleasure to go over his history and much more as we welcome to All Things Considered, Joe Louis Walker. Aloha, Brother Joe. How you doing?
Hey, aloha.
Good to be talking to you, man. Thank you for taking a few moments for us.
No worries.
Your musical family background is something that leads to you picking up guitar at 8 years old. Fill us in at 8 years old, how this happens, and a little bit of how your family plays a role in that.
Well, I was around instruments. My dad came from the South, Mississippi, and it's all around the music always. Either he played it on the little 45 record player. And so when my dad moved to San Francisco, where I was born, he sent me to a parochial school, Catholic school, and at the school they had instruments. You could check out an instrument if your family signed for it, like a library book.
I like that.
And so I started listening to guys playing the guitars, but I couldn't check the guitar out because it was always checked out. So I checked out the violin because that was the smallest thing that was closest to a guitar to me, and plucking around on that and really couldn't make too much sense out of it. I still got one, though. Then I checked out the accordion, because that was the only thing left. I never could check a guitar out.
Wow.
When I got to be about 9 years old, my mother bought me a guitar. You could, buy them rent them out, rent them for a week or two at a time. So she rented the guitars until I got old enough to be about 12. She bought me one. She just took on from there. And then I started playing with my cousins. My four cousins had a band when I was about 14, and I started playing with them, and then I joined the union when I was 14, actually. Left home when I was 16 playing.
San Francisco factors in because you were, and this is an interesting role, the club The Matrix, which has quite a history with different acts over the years, and you get credited as being a house guitarist there. I wonder if that role with the union helped in that.
Well, what really helped was that that helped, but also that I was at the Fillmore area. I lived in the Fillmore when it was sort of like Harlem. In the 60s, it was more predominantly African-American, Japanese, and some Japanese people, and, of course, all kind of people. But I went to junior high school, a block from the Film Auditorium, when it was had that dynamic. And so we used to have our Battle of the Bands there, and, you could play 7 nights a week just in the Fillmore alone, in the outlying areas and sort of going up towards the Haight district. We didn't call it the Haight-Ashbury then. We just called it the Haight. And the Castro district because it was all sort of mixed in. And so by me playing at the Film Auditorium and going there, basically when the hippies came, I was there pretty much the night the Mime Troupe had their first thing there. And Bill Graham and Chet Helms sort of cut it up. Bill took the Fillmore, and actually a lot of people don't know. I think Chet Helms had it before Bill, and the family dog went to Sutter Street. And then they moved out to the beach, and then they moved back to Sutter Street. And Fillmore was the original Film Auditorium. And then the musicians got what they call the Carousel Ballroom, and musicians couldn't run it, so they brought in Bill, and Bill called that the Fillmore West. But it was not the Film Auditorium. The original Fillmore is still on Fillmore Street.
Right, and that's the one that is the original auditorium, is the one that's open to this day that has concerts going on there. It's been renovated. Beautiful venue.
Yeah, But the way I sort of became one of the guitar players who played a lot at the Matrix was that I knew a guy named Rod McKernan, and he was playing with the Grateful Dead.
Pigpen.
Yeah, and Pig was sort of like the blues guy in that group. I mean, serious blues guy. I mean, Pig knew his blues. And so he sort of liked me, and Yorma and Jack sort of helped me out. And so the little group I was in, we played there, and then I played with a group called the Phoenix and different psychedelic blues groups. And so I just ended up being there all the time. And then when I moved in with a guy named Mike Bloomfield in Mill Valley, I would sort of commute from the Matrix to the house in Mill Valley on Carmelita Street.
What's your favorite story of hanging out with Pigpen and the way that he, maybe even first meeting him, but then in addition to that, just something that you see as a great musical testament or a favorite interaction?
Well, I mean, Pigpen was a little bit older than me, and he was sort of a biker also, but he was really open to the blues, and I think the coolest thing, he invited me down to the Longshoremen's Hall. The Angels, H.A. used to have blues shows with the Grateful Dead backing people, and he invited me down. I got down there to see him, and and then the dead back Bo Diddley and Low Walter one time, and that was pretty cool.
That's a good guy to, and the same, when you look at any of your musical history, it's humbling, the experiences that you've had. So I see some of these names, and obviously it begs asking you more about it. John Lee Hooker, how old were you when you got your interaction with John?
Well, I knew Hooker because I played with Hooker's cousin when he came to the West Coast, a guy named Earl Hooker, who was really a great guitar player and a great slide player. And so I played with Earl for a while at the Matrix, in fact. That was cool because Earl had a great band, so I got to meet all those guys. But I knew Hooker for quite a while because Hooker, John Lee, moved to the Bay Area. He lived in Oakland. And then when he became sort of really well-known, he had a house in a place called was it Antioch? Not Antioch, California. I can't remember the name of it. I'll think of the town. It was a really nice place to live. So, and then I know Hooker's son, John Jr., and Archie, and his Zakia, his daughter. I know them all.
You got some other really heavy hitters. Willie Dixon, Muddy Waters. Where do they come in?
Willie, I got to know because he had moved to California also. I was playing down in Southern California, and Willie would come to hear me. And he was trying to, as Willie do as a consummate songwriter, producer, he was trying to figure out, ways to get me a hit, as Willie. So I'd go down and to Glendale and try to write songs for him and stuff like that. And with Muddy, Muddy used to come to the Bay Area, of course, playing the Fillmore and play the jazz workshop. And one of his guitar players became a real good friend of mine, a guy named Pee Wee Madison, a short guy that played left-handed. And every time Pee Wee would come, he'd let me know, and I'd get things ready for him or whatever he needed. And I don't know, about 1968, I used to follow Muddy. In 69, and in 70, I went to somewhere. Muddy was playing the Keystone down on Vallejo Street, and he said, if you get yourself together, I'm playing a 2-week run up in Toronto. And I said, well, I'm gonna be in Detroit. He said, well, you come down there, and I'll let you open up the old Colonial Tavern in Toronto. It was a 2-tiered club. The band played downstairs, and the headliner would be upstairs. When the headliner stopped, then you started playing, but you played like 4 sets a night. And so that's I got a chance to spend some time with Muddy, and it was time well spent.
Very special times indeed. A 2-week run, you were doing that?
Yeah, well, actually, I got to open up downstairs, and Muddy was upstairs with his band. But he put me on the show and helped me out like that.
Oh, that's a huge thing. I mean, God bless him for that, and I'm sure he did similar things for other cats that he doesn't get enough credit for. Did you guys get to jam together?
Well, I got to spend more time with Muddy, having dinner and watching him play cards.
Personal time, I get it.
And then I'd ask him to show me something. I always tell people, I was young then. I was like 19 years old, but I wasn't dumb.
Right, you were getting pointers.
So my whole thing was, when I get around guys like that, is to ask questions and literally physically ask them to show me stuff and to tell me, what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong, and Muddy told me a lot about slide playing and showed me.
When you were messing around with Willie Dixon, you guys ever get to play that tune "Evil Is Going On" together?
Certain things. I admire people who are up there and who can do records, and bring attention to the blues to another generation. But certain things to me are they're like trying to repaint the Mona Lisa. There's no way I'm going to be stupid, dumb enough to try to play "Evil Going On." I can play it for fun and a lark, but to touch those songs like that, to me, are they're sort of sacred.
I hear what you mean, but when I was I guess I say that because as a young guy into heavy metal when I was younger, there was this band out of New Jersey that did this retro style of metal that was kind of like Hawkwind meets The Doors meets Black Sabbath, like 1971 circa sound with real retro gear, very authentic, irreverent band. And they had a cover of that on one of their records. And it helped me get into Willie, get into the blues, learn about those things. It was a real bridge. And that's why I asked, because for 20-something years, I've just loved that tune. And I give them credit for showing it to me, I guess. in some
Well,
ways.
I love the song, and I can listen to the Wolf do it, 24 hours a day. But I mean, even to attempt on something that the Wolf did is a hard it's easier. You can try to do a B.B. King song, you can try to do a John Lee Hooker song, but the Wolf is just one of those things that extreme. You like it the way it is.
I get you. No, I know. I know what you mean. That's a very good point.
For me, because my dad came from that area, and that's one of the guys he really liked. And I can remember being a teenager. I'm being a little kid listening to the Wolf and my dad talking about it, and then going to the Fillmore after it had changed over to like the hippie era, and going to see guys like the Yardbirds, and then getting a record like Rave Up and playing it at my house when I was a teenager. 16, 17, when I lived with my dad sort of off and on, and him saying, why are they trying to do that? As a dad, it's just a different energy, different generation. He said, I know, but it's something I don't recognize. But I mean, my dad grew to sort of respect that younger people were we're getting hip to the blues.
I get what you mean. Yeah, that's a great analogy. And that's cool about you, Joe. You got that crossroads of the blues, rootsy blues background, but also that nice San Francisco thing, which is a culture, as you already know, in and of itself, and an important one. And to know Pigpen got you right there. You get to spend time with Jerry. Did you ever get to know him as a person? Or?
Well, yeah, I spent a little bit of time with Jerry. I was more closer to Bobby Weir because Bobby's more closer to my age. And Bobby's was just when I was growing up, coming up in San Francisco. I think Bobby may be a year or two older than me. But certain guys, like, certain guys were just, just to be quite honest. I mean, if you went to a show, you go to the Fillmore like I did all the time, and those Bill Graham shows were very diverse. You have the Dead on the show with Charles Lord Quartet and Howlin' Wolf or Muddy Waters, or you would have Quicksilver and the Gary Burton Quartet with Larry Coryell on guitar and the James Cotton Band, big band. So I mean, it was always like that. But certain guys, were sort of in the area, we were all sort of mingling, but certain guys were straight, all the chicks loved. And Bobby was one of those guys. John Cipollino was another one. Freddie Stewart, Sly Stone's brother, was another one. Not only were they good musicians, but they were they're what you wanted to be, you know what I'm saying?
So you were hanging with them.
Yeah, if I could, I mean, they were sort of local celebrities. I mean, I was just a guy trying to get a gig,
Bill Graham, though, is a wonderful. We always hear so many stories about him. Was that a person that you got to get to know over the course of so many experiences there?
Well, I can honestly say, that Bill helped me at the beginning of my career, and he helped me at the end of his life. I'd already been playing the Fillmore, but it was predominantly soul and African American. And then when the hippies came, Bill still put me on a few things. He's the reason I opened up for Thelonious Monk one time at the Fillmore West. Bill always put blues on his act. I mean, he pretty much made Carlos's career at Santana because he gave Carlos his break when Bloomfield didn't show up for a gig. I mean, he helped so many guys in that context. And also, if you read the book about Bill, the last show that he ever went to, the last concert, I played that concert. I opened up for Huey Lewis that night at the Concord Pavilion, and when I went upstairs to get paid, Bob Brown, Huey's manager, who I'd been opening up for quite a bit, and who was my next-door neighbor, said, Joe, Bill's up there. And so I went up there, and Bill was telling me, he said he wanted to put a concert on to help the people, I think in Sarajevo or somewhere like that. And he wanted some blues on the show, and I just said, well, I'd love to be on the show, Bill. And then the weather was really windy. It was probably the most windy that I'd ever seen in the Bay Area in my life. Bob had just said, man, you might want to think about flying, because Bill lived over in Marin County, and I lived in Novato, and Bob was my next-door neighbor in Novato. And Bill lived out that way, and I can just remember Bill saying, the pilot says it's okay. And Bob turned to me and says, Joe, if Bill says it's okay, the pilot's going to say it's okay.
Right.
And so I drove home that night, and all the lights were out where we lived in Nevada, because we lived right close to a transform area, where they have those transformers, and they have them coming up the highway, leaving Marin County, right going into Sonoma County, right on the edge, and that's where I lived at. The next morning, woke up, and they had fixed the lights, and the first thing we seen that Bill Graham, they showed that iconic picture of his helicopter stuck up in the wires up in the PG&E transformer area. And we had driven by there that night. You have to drive by there to get to our house. But we didn't notice anything like that because everything was it was a weird night. And so in that book, one of the last musicians he talked to was Joe Louis Walker, which was sort of weird for me,
Over all the years of doing radio, there's probably more stories I've gotten about him and his generosity and the things he did for individuals and their career at different points. And for you to have those two sort of bookends and to have been able to be at the Fillmore, as you said, and to have your father's influence get you there and interested before it was Bill's place. Did your dad come, by the way, and check you out? You talk about the way Bill sort of mixed genres together, which he's really known for. Was your father equally impressed with your journey as it progressed in your life?
Well, my father didn't really live long enough to see me become an international artist. He did. When I was growing up, I was, sort of pretty well known as a young sort of phenom. Like, they come a dime a dozen now, but I was pretty well known. I mean, I was living with Bloomfield when I was pretty much 17 and a half.
Right.
And people had heard of me already. I mean, I'd been playing the Matrix for a year or two when I was 16. And I went to Davis, Sacramento area, and I was playing with Oxford Circle when I was about 15, 16. And out of Oxford Circle came Blue Cheer. So, I mean, people knew about me. I played for Chet and everybody. But my dad died in 1969.
Wow.
But I'll tell you a funny story, and it's not so funny, but show you how your parents treat you. I was pretty well known in the area, and especially in the area I lived in San Francisco, Oakland, with me and my cousins playing around. And one of my cousins left the family band to make a record called She's Looking Good by Roger Collins, which became a million seller. So when he quit the family band, I took his place. But I'll never forget, I was like 14 and a half years old, and my dad needed a band for my sister's wedding, for one of my sister's wedding. And he had to come to me and my cousins and say, I need to hire your band. So we charged him $100, right, for the four of us, and my dad was pissed. He was saying, you guys use my electricity when you rehearse, and you're screwing girls downstairs in the music room. You're doing all, and you know what? You're going to charge me $100. He says, well, you're not going to eat. So, but I mean, he was proud of me, but my mom, of course, lived to see me with most of the people. And plus I got to, eventually talk to people like Howlin' Wolf and stuff. And Howlin' Wolf had seen guys like my dad. I mean, he's from that area. Got to introduce my mom and take pictures with B.B. King on several occasions, and which was just made her day. I mean, B.B. King was like the Michael Jackson of her generation.
Sure.
And of her, where she came from. So it was like she just was, tongue-tied and everything, and BB was a gentleman, so it was really cool.
Most important things that you've gotten from your mom? I lost my mom a couple years ago, so now I'm always thinking about her and all the great things that she's brought into my life. What are the things that you give your mother the most credit for?
Well, I even put it in the song with Mama. She used to tell me, it's just, a quitter never wins and a winner never quits. And I believe in that saying. It's like Benjamin Franklin, the world is littered with IQ fools. Perseverance, perseverance, perseverance will see you through. And I like to look at myself as not the greatest guitar player, not the greatest singer, not the greatest songwriter, not the greatest live performer, but when you put them all together, it's formidable, And I got my own little thing that I do, and it's connected to the people before me, but it's also, I like to look at it like sort of like a pathway for people going after me to see that the way I could be free in the idiom that's sort of confining, and to bring all my influences and try to bring the best of them and to turn people on to some other things that they may not be aware of.
On that note, there's a flip side to it, and it's just as rewarding, and maybe more so because of the way what you just mentioned. I mean, people have come and been part of your life. They've been part of the recordings you've been doing. And when you talk about paving a path that others will then see and use as an example, as a reference point, I think of, we just had Booker T in the studio recently, and Steve Cropper worked with you. I mean, it's like different people, other guests, Bonnie Raitt, Buddy Guy, Ike Turner, Taj Mahal, right? They've all taken time to be part of your enterprise, B.B. King.
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate that one thing about it, when I ask somebody to do something musically, and I'm proud to say they know that I don't play with people's music, and so if I'm going to do a project with somebody, I'm really going to try to make them shine. That's going to be my main goal, is to make it's cool if I do a project, be it live or be it on a record or be it writing a song. I want the person I'm with to be able to support them 110%. Some of the stuff you're talking about, those people play with me, but they all knew that where I was coming from is a fan. I'm a fan, serious business.
Right.
And so be it whoever I'm playing with, James Cotton or Ronnie Wood, if it's Nick Lowe, or if it's Branford Marsalis, or if it's Joss Stone, or if it's Shamika Copeland. If I'm recording and playing with them, I'm going to try to make them sound as good as I can. And so I think in that context, people like to work with me.
Right, because you help them shine, you let them be their best. And I guess what you've pointed out is part of your life is both the tenacity, but it's also you've had all this exposure from the time you were young and genuinely loved the music, loved the arts. And so the fandom, if that's a word, really lends itself to making a higher quality product.
Yeah, and it's enough pressure doing music in different genres, because the meter for a successful musician nowadays is their success in volume, record sales, people coming, how many people came to the show. But that's not necessarily the watermark of an artist.
Right.
You know, it's almost like getting in, say, the Jazz Hall of Fame or the Blues Hall of Fame or the Rock Hall of Fame. Well, the Rock Hall of Fame is how many records you sold. It's not how many people you've influenced, because you can influence somebody who's sold hundreds of millions of records and playing your music. But they don't take that then into account. With blues and jazz, the criteria for being accepted more, I think, is your authenticity and how long you've been doing what you do. And I think a big part of it also is that, it's got to be a little bit of rebel in it, man. Can't be too safe,
Well, I'm sure that's what's drawn people in recent years, a number of performances you've done in the islands. And again, as you come back through, Everybody Wants a Piece is a latest record. Joe Louis Walker has experiences that really shaped your life, but are a lot of fun to enjoy, too. Hope you had fun recollecting some of them with me today.
Oh, I love it. Thanks.
It was a lot of fun. And I'll leave you also with this, buddy. You're going to be in Honolulu area. If you want to do it, we have a really nice studio, and it could get you some visibility. You come in, you could do a couple tunes. We talk, we record a little segment. It gets you down the road sort of juice, brand recognition, gets it onto our website. It's not something you got to do, but if you wanted to do it while you're in town, but if you want to just relax while you're here, no worries. But I just stick it in your ear.
Yeah. It'd be pretty cool. You got an acoustic guitar there? Because I won't have an acoustic guitar with me.
I could have somebody have an acoustic here very easily.
Okay. Well, you have my phone number. I'll tell you what. Why don't you call Lappin, because Lappin's my publicist. Mm-hmm. You call Lappin and tell him that we agree to do this.
Okay. Nice. Okay. And you'll do it acoustic if I have an acoustic guitar here.
Yeah. Well, I got to do it acoustic.
Cool. No, that's perfect. Sounds good. I will deal with John. And you travel safe. I really did have a good time talking to you. You're a lot of fun, and I can see how it really brings a lot to your playing and the kind of cat you are. So appreciate your time, and we're going to be talking soon. Be safe, Joe.
Okay, see you later.
See ya. Bye.